Hello and welcome to the first series of the VIP vlog with Nathan Singleton and Elspeth Paisley. In these shows, I'm the interviewer and Nathan is your expert. We're experimenting a bit with the format of the show, so do let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. So let us know what you do, and if you've got any questions that you'd like us to cover, do comment below and we'll try to include these in future episodes and series. This is the inaugural series of the VIP vlog, and in this first series of 5 shows we're looking at what it takes to be a good mentor, whether you're a volunteer or a professional. And so without any further ado, let me introduce you to Nathan Singleton, your host, and we'll get on with this week's show. So today we're going to talk about why it's so important for young people to be mentors. I know it's something that you're really passionate about. So let's start with what's it take to be a really good mentor?
Gosh, that's a really good question, and it's one that we have quite a lot. We use mentors, both full-time employed and volunteer mentors, and the skills are consistent amongst them. Essentially, what's required to be a really good mentor is that you care about the young person. Everything else we can train and support and develop you in. But if you don't have that essential care, that interest in the young person, I don't know why you'd want to do it. I suppose some people do want to do it to build the CV, largely, or for work experience. Those are the people that we generally don't find a position for or don't find there's a good fit. So to be a good mentor, number one thing is to care for the young person, and to have a heart towards young people in general. It's difficult to care for someone who you don't know, but to have a kind of a passion and interest in the young person's development is really important. And when you have that care, it drives you. So then it means that when you have your mentoring session with a young person, you don't just walk away from that mentoring session, but that you'll continue to think about that young person and think about what they've shared with you and how you might advise them, how you might help them throughout the week. And it's that mulling over where I think we really find the solutions and find the best answers for young people.
So when you're mulling over, is that something that you just do by yourself, or do you have other people that you draw on yourself?
For me, I mean, there's a couple of things that relate to that. Depending on the situation, sometimes it would be I would just mull, just reflect, consider, and you'd have a light bulb moment. But oftentimes I'll talk with those around me. So I think supervision is really important. And what often happens in mentoring and counselling and that side of things is the professionals are encouraged to keep it in a box that shouldn't have any emotional weighting on them. But if you care, then you can't keep it in a box. So there is going to be some carrying of the young person in your heart, as it were. And so sharing is really important, so that you don't have the intensity of that relationship yourself, and so you don't believe that as a mentor you have all the answers. We very much believe in a team approach. So that means when I'm thinking about a young person, I'll talk to my wife or my friends or my boss or the other mentors or my staff about the situation with the young person. I won't talk about the young person, but I'll talk about the situation, and that way I'll get wisdom in areas that I don't know about. And there's a multiplication of wisdom, so that I might have 20 years mentoring experience, but if I talk with you, you have 20 years mentoring experience, then what that young person's getting is actually 40 years of wisdom. If I talk to a couple of people, then it multiplies each time. And then we realise we're bringing a team approach to what is a very traditionally individualistic thing.
I really like that, actually, because sometimes you can feel a bit under pressure yourself to come up with all the answers, but how do you get over that confidentiality issue with the young person?
Yeah, and that's really important too, because the standard line in mentoring or youth work or even teaching could be that everything that you tell me in this session is going to be confidential, unless it puts you at risk or someone else at risk, at which point I'm going to have to make a disclosure. What I don't like about that line is about everything being confidential. And it makes it, to me, confidential draws people into a hidden place. And the whole idea of a one-to-one is about getting a young person to talk and be free, bringing light into the dark places. And if you look at mental health, you see an awful lot of benefit for young people in talking. One of the things I say to my mentors is you can actually be a good mentor and be a mannequin, because it's about giving the young person space to talk. What we do is make sure we're better than that by having some dynamic interaction as well. So the traditional line is everything you tell me is confidential unless it puts you at risk. Our line is that we say, if you trust me to tell me something, you've got to trust me to do the right thing with the information. I work as part of a team and therefore I benefit from the support of a team. And so what's really important for us is the development of trust. Not a contract, but a relationship. And I think that would be the difference. When the line is used, everything is confidential, that creates a contract. Whereas what we're seeking to do is not create a contract for mentoring, but create a basis of trust. And that would be consistent across everything we do. So the whole idea that I would have people that I talk to, we would have that same relationship.
So would you say that you yourself have a mentor?
Yeah, and that's important, because if I'm saying to a young person that mentoring is really important, you need to be mentored, but I don't believe that I need to be mentored, then what does that say about the level of my relationship and my view of the young person, that they're not as good as me? If I think mentoring is really important, then surely I would benefit from it as well. And the reason I think mentoring is really important is because I have benefited from it. And the reason why we provide mentoring is really because we have, as mentors, benefited from it from a very early age. I had youth leaders around and family friends around that I could go to that would give me an independent view to my parents' view. And so I couldn't just rubbish what my parents might say to me, because there'd be independent people that I trusted that would bring a similar message. The young people that we tend to work with don't have necessarily positive parental role models in some cases, and they certainly don't have trusted adults that they can draw from to bring support and back up that message. So what we provide is that. So yes, I benefited from that, and so because I benefited from mentoring, that's why I see the benefit for young people, and that's why I think it's essential for young people. And we have to have integrity. If I'm saying to a young person, this is good for you, and not practicing it myself, then that wouldn't rest well with me. So anything that I encourage a young person to do, I have to be willing to do myself, whether that's leading an activity, climbing up a rock face, or jumping in a waterfall, or putting my hand up in class.
How would you encourage someone to to see that they could become a mentor? What are the qualities that they need?
We get a lot of, particularly for the volunteer mentors, a lot of people that say, I don't know if I'd be very good. And at that point, the fact that they're talking to me and they're considering mentoring, that says that they care. That usually, occasionally it might be because they're wanting to build their CV, and we quickly check that out. But the fact that they're coming and thinking, I wonder if I could be a mentor, they've heard something, they wonder if they can do it. So that says they care. Then the fact that they're saying, I'm not sure if I'll be a good mentor, I'm not sure if I've got anything to offer. They may be 18, they may be 80. I've had the same conversation with both ends of the spectrum. That says to me they'd be a brilliant mentor, because the worst mentors we've had are the ones that said, oh yeah, I know mentoring, I'm really good at this, I know how to do it. Those are people that will work individualistically, that won't take additional inputs, that won't work as part of a team, that believe they've got all the answers. But the person that says, I'm not sure if I can do it, they're going to draw from the mentor support that we have, those around them, to provide the best sort of mentoring. And I have had that conversation with 18-year-olds and 80-year-olds. And the young people that we work with, and we've got a very good person that kind of does the matching side of things. Young people tend to not have robust family relationships. And so an 18-year-old might be the slightly older, slightly cooler, bigger sister. And that can be a very positive relationship for a young person, someone that that they respect, that understands their culture to a degree, but is a little bit more mature. An 80-year-old can't be that person. They're not going to be the big sister, but they will be the missing grandparent. And there's something that they bring that is equally as valuable for the young person as the 18-year-old will do. But for the mentor perspective, it's about understanding what role you bring and understanding the value of who you are.
It sounds very interesting. It's like that matching of the mentor with the mentee is quite crucial. And you say you've got somebody who does that. So it sounds like they know the young person quite well before they match a mentor with them. How does that process work?
The matching's really important, and that role of the person is really key because they're the first line of support for the mentor. So that's probably the number 2 thing they do in terms of order, but it's the number 1 thing they do in terms of the belief, the practice of team and mentoring not being individualistic but being a team work, because we believe that we have the answer for the young person, not I. And so that helps the team element. They have to get to know the young person a little bit in order to make that match. And that's where the mentoring model will adapt according to the sphere that it's played out in. So when we work in schools and we have professional mentors in schools, it works slightly different. There's not the same range of mentors that we have. We've got one person that's in that school and that one person's got to mentor everyone. But I'll be looking for a slightly different skill set in that person. And so because I believe the young people benefit from lots of different styles of mentors, if I've got one person and they're mentoring lots of different people, I'll look for someone that's a little bit more adaptable, and they need more support and they need more tools up their sleeve. Where we've got volunteer mentors and we have a pool of mentors, then the mentor coordinator has to have an understanding of the young person, and we've got an interview process that we use for them to help establish that, and they have to have an understanding of the mentors. And so we have to interview both and get to know both. And we'll use the teachers in the school to help us build the profile of the young person, the understanding of them. And the mentors will just spend time, and through the training that we deliver, we'll just get a sense of them. And the consistent thing is about building relationship. Everywhere we tread, we want to build relationship, because that's what mentoring is about. It's about providing an extended social network for the young person. And so for us to have integrity, that has to be represented in how we relate with our mentors, in how we relate with the teachers and the schools. So the things that we practice, you'll see represented in every part of what we do.
What would you say to a mentor the first time that they meet a young person? How do they start off?
The key thing, and it comes back to the confidentiality versus trusting, is about building trust. Some young people will be really talkative and they're just dying to talk to someone. And one of the things that teachers say to us is, we didn't know that was going on for the young person. How on earth did you uncover that? Well, if I sit with someone for 30 minutes, they're generally going to tell me stuff. Schools don't have that opportunity. Sometimes parents find it difficult to make that opportunity. So we have that opportunity with the discipline of sitting down with the young person. That gives them time to talk. So some young people will talk easy, and it's just about guiding and asking key questions. And we have a list of questions. We have a resource pack that we share with our mentors.
Interesting. So what kind of questions do you have that you ask those young people? The resource pack's about that thick. So there's a whole bunch of different tools and questions. To start off with, I might ask a young person what they did. How was the last lesson if they're coming from school? How was school today? Do they have brothers and sisters? General opening questions. The challenge is where a young person won't talk, and that's where mentors find it most difficult. I once did a mentoring session for a young person in the alternative school that we ran, that the teachers said he's got ADHD and he won't shut up at all. And I mentored, I think I had an hour session with this young person, and they didn't speak for an hour, which was remarkable because they had ADHD and they couldn't be quiet.
So I don't know, if they were testing me or just what was going on, but it really tested my skills. And it's something that I've really benefited from because I managed it, and so then I know I can manage that in future. I talked a lot. The key thing, most times, I don't think this was actually the case for that young person, but most times when a young person doesn't talk, it's because they don't trust. And so we have to build trust. And so I can't make you trust me. The way that I can help you trust me is by trusting you. And so there has to, if we're talking to a young person, we want them to be vulnerable, we want them to share, we have to mirror that. We have to lead them in that by demonstrating that. If we don't demonstrate it ourselves, then we're kind of hypocritical because we're expecting them to do something that we're not willing to do ourselves. And a good leader does by example. But it's also important that we don't burden the young person. So when you're sharing stories with a young person, you've always got to think, is this for the benefit of the young person or for the benefit of me? Am I getting something from this? Is this feeding a need in me? If I'm talking about how my wife frustrated me this morning, that's probably more about me than them. She didn't frustrate me this morning. So that's the question we have to ask, and that's where the mentor coordinator comes in real handy, in the supervision, to just bring a balance on that and to help mentors ask that question. So the way that I would build trust is by sharing different examples. I might talk about how I benefited from the mentoring, from being mentored. I might ask the person if they find it to be weird. I might guess about how they might feel about a situation, but I'd never give them one option. I'd say, do you think this is a bit weird, or do you think this is a bit of a privilege? Because we can lead them by giving one answer. So I try to ask questions open or give a multiple choice of answers, just so I can get a best understanding of where the young person's at. And then there's the games we can use, but essentially all the games are about building trust. I spoke to a mentor last night who said to me, for the first 3 months, the young person didn't say anything. And it's hard work. You have to talk about yourself, what's going on, try and find common ground. And this mentor was really good because he spoke to us and he said, I'm really finding this difficult, I don't know what to do here. And it's just difficult. There's not a magic wand. But after 3 months, obviously the trust was built and the young person started talking, and now they get on like a house on fire. And I suppose I'm really thankful for the perseverance of the mentor. And in that case, that was a volunteer mentor who kept on coming.
So what was it that motivated them to keep coming, do you think? Because that sounds to me like it's pretty grim for 3 months.
It's hard work. It's hard work. And I suppose from my perspective, I have to make sure the mentoring works, not just for the young person, but for the mentor as well. Particularly where there's a volunteer mentor, because it changes the nature of things. So we often look at how the mentoring's working. That's why our program's always evolving, always tweaking, always improving. Because if a mentor has a really rough experience, they won't want to do it next year. Some young people don't want to be mentored. And at the end of the day, if they don't want to be mentored, there's no point making it happen. There's lots of young people that will benefit from it. So we want those that are going to benefit it to access it. I think what motivated that mentor, I suppose probably similar to myself, because they benefited from mentoring and they had some empathy with the young person. I think they could see that there was an element of trust that needed to be built. So being tenacious is really key, having that perseverance, and the mentor supervisor being encouraging is really key. In a school setting where you're using professional mentors, they can draw a little bit more from the staff and the other experiences, so you can get some insider information as to what's going on. That's another really interesting thing to balance, because when we're in school, it's really important that we're an external provider. We're not the school, so we're independent, but actually we're not isolated. And being independent and not isolated is really important, and it comes back to the same theme of team. So we want to be in team with the school, but we don't necessarily tell them everything the young person said, and there's a real balance in that. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Perhaps that's a subject we'll look at on a later occasion. Right, so just thanks very much for all of that, Nathan. It's fascinating. I could listen to you for a long time. So I think you've made 3 key points today. So do you want to just remind us what those three key points are?
Yes. In order to make mentoring work, the 3 keys would be about firstly having a care for the young person. We can train in pretty much everything else, but that's something we have to select, that people have that base interest of the young person first. Then the second one is about developing a trusting relationship. You've got to build that trust. It gives the doorway for the vulnerability and the openness. And the third thing is also really important, but kind of counterintuitive to a standard one-to-one mentoring relationship, is about working in team. And so that's about the framework that we provide to ensure that a mentor is supported. And those 3 working together give you your foundation of successful mentoring.